Thank you so much. And first and foremost, let me thank the entire Shenzhen team because, and a special mention here to Samir because the way they have reached out to me is by ensuring that, they are one of those people who are trying to bridge this gender gap. The topic that we have chosen today has been very, very close to my heart. And I believe that it requires a platform to be spoken to and spoken at with the like-minded people who can come together and address these issues. And before we can address these issues, we need to somewhere in our mind understand that yes, gender gap exists, but more importantly, gender gap exists in data. Now, let me quickly, without wasting time, jump to the topic. First and foremost, let me talk about what exactly is the gender gap. Now, there are there are lots of people that I meet and loads of seminars that I attend, which are based on women empowerment. A lot of places that I go to because of the kind of work that I do, where topics revolved around feminism. And last but not the least, the voices of women matter is something that a lot of people have been talking about. But primarily, it all boils down to policy and the implementation of policy. Now, if you actually look at back end of policy, what helps people to make the right kind of policies are primarily two important things. One is data, and there is unlimited segments which have gaps of with respect to gender in terms of data. So first and foremost, we will also have to understand what exactly is gender data gap, because this is a terminology, at least in India, which people are not talking about. And last but not the least, how using the tech we can bridge this gap. But the second most important thing is actually a policy maker who understands this gap and data and the tech to ensure that the right policy happens. Now, because we are never equipped with the right kind of data and statistics, we are not in a position to go back and talk to the men in general or the ecosystem in general about what can be done. Now, I just hope that the only thing that I would want to carry forward and leave you with is a simple thought that this is not going to be like any other feministic endeavor where we are going to talk about feminism. I am going to talk about simply gender gaps and gender data gaps. So let me start with defining what exactly is gender gap. The gap, which could be either social, it could be political, it could be just intellectual, cultural, or economic attainments or attitudes in the entire societal ecosystem are primarily called gender gaps. Now, we have seen a lot of cultural gender gaps in India, and that's the reason why you will see a woman cooking in the kitchen and a man going out to work. Now, these are things that we've been talking about, but please think about this. There are loads of fables and storytellers and stories which are there in your children's textbook or in magazines, in novels. These stories talk about this inherent thought process where women do a certain task and men do a certain task. Women are treated in certain manner and men are treated in certain manner. Now, this is the first step where cultural gender gap happens. In a very similar manner, social gender gap happens in a certain manner. Now, when we are talking about social gender gap, I would rather bring in the SDGs, which means the Sustainable Development Goals. How many women are there who have in the middle class or in the lower middle class or in BPL category who have houses in their own names? Now, I'm sure there are more than 100 women listening to me right here. Go back and think. Do you think how many houses, if you are not working and if you're at home, how many houses does your husband buy in which you are a co-buyer? Or else how many houses, how many households have houses which have houses in the name of women? And if at all it exists, where is the data to support it? And if we do not have data, how else can we make policies around, say, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana? Yes, there is some sort of census data which is available with the government, but what I basically say is male is the usual norm. Women are usually invisible. Males are the norm. And it is basically men and data related to men which is considered as default. Women always come as an afterthought. Okay, when we are making gender neutral policies, then we are also talking about women, which means I made a policy first and then tweaked it for women. Ideally, did I have a statistical research done based on which I build the policy? Absolutely no. Second, in my statistical surveys, did I consider women as equal partnership when I was doing the survey? Absolutely no. In fact, my basic premise of or in fact, my point of view is, especially for the marginalized class, it is important for you to get them on an equalized platform, and hence sometimes you need to do more. So if you actually see the JAM Trinity that government has come up with, or the Ujjwala Yojana that the government has come up with. So JAM means Jan Dhan Yojana, Aadhaar and Mobil are primarily focused towards men. But let's for example, I am sure that a lot of women today here with me will not agree that there are gender data gaps which are available. So what exactly is the gender data gaps? So when you're looking at data, or when you're looking at findings, are we sex disintegrating data, which means are we basically saying that women primarily do this? Gaps in gender are typical trend data. So what we basically say is, okay, because we have spoken to 2 women, probably the trend of women are like this, and this is a reality. Do you know, I'm going to give you a specific example. Do you know that more men are killed in a car crash? But if there is a women driver and a male driver, women have nearly 17% more chances of being killed. Why? Think why. In fact, there are 47% more chances that if a woman is driving and there is an accident, then the woman is going to be injured. So between a man and a woman, the woman has 47% more chances of getting injured. And why is this? Because whenever a car accident, car crash test is done, it is done by male dummies. Now, it really does not matter, but you need to understand that it does matter. And that is the reason why somehow we realize that the car, the safety instructions, the airbag, your safety belt are not made for women bodies. And because they are not made for women bodies, though women are safe drivers, yet when they meet with an accident, there are more chances that they will die. Now, this is one of the examples. I can give you umpteen number of examples in every sector. Let us talk about the health sector. This is a survey which is done in America. I don't even have Indian surveys, so I don't know the numbers. But a survey of America says that 20% of men get killed through a heart disease, and 25% of women die due to a heart attack. But the survival rate of women is remarkably low. And the worst is, there are 50% chances that while a woman is undergoing a heart attack, she is going to be misdiagnosed, because the symptoms of men and women are different. And no study has been made with regard to women symptoms while in a heart attack, whereas the only 5% population are affected less as far as heart disease deaths in America is concerned. Now this is the health sector. Do you know that female sexual dysfunctional tablets actually were tested on men? And this is truth. Go back and check. Just Google it. This is the truth. And this is about the health sector. Come back, look at any sector. Today, there was an AI which was made, and AI was basically made to identify pictures. It was told to the AI and explained to the AI that every kitchen, if there is a figure which stands in the kitchen, it is usually a woman. There are 58% times that AI went wrong while recognizing men and women. And we could not teach the AI or the bot that this is how you identify men and women, because there are absolutely no data for an AI or a bot to recognize figures and the difference between a man and a woman. What it basically identifies is the kind of work that he does, and primarily through, say, a kitchen or driving a car or XYZ. Let me give you another example. Female doctors have higher patient survivals, and male doctors basically do very well when there are female doctors around them. Now, this is data, and again, it's a surveyed data. But the fact is, we do not understand and know this data, and hence the fact is that when I go for a certain checkup, I will not see whether the person who's checking up is a female or a male. Do we know which diseases can be catered to better? Which care center can do better with which gender? We have no statistical evidence in all of this. The fact is, this is where the large gap is. In fact, the gap is on all fronts. You look at phones which do not fit into our hands. That's because they were made for male hands. You look at drugs which are not customized for female bodies. You look at bots which look at CVs, which go through CVs. You will realize that 76% of the times in the US, it's not an interviewer which is taking the interview. It is basically a bot. And even in India, about 88% of CV selection is done through a bot. Now, when 88% times your bot is doing the selection, have you taught him an algorithm which is not gender agnostic? It is not gender neutral, but it understands and works around the gender gaps and ensures diversity as a mindset. And that is my topic today. We need to develop, and through all of this, I still want to reiterate that it is not primarily the intent of men that ensures that this gap remains. It is actually that there is an everyday bias in our minds which ensures that this entire thought process does not come into our daily products and services. Which is the best product designed as far as user experience is concerned? I'm talking from an iPhone, and I know that most of you will talk about an iPhone. Steve Jobs lived design. Yet, if you go to an Apple comprehensive health tracker, it will not track your periods. And you will have to have another app to be downloaded to ensure that you can track your periods. This is the gap of data and the bias. Now, the fact is, this bias remains, and it is there, it exists, it's the truth. The fact is, how do you basically, and what do you basically do to prevent this? First and foremost, gender needs to be mainstreamed into national statistical strategies, and that's when changes start to happen. It needs to be prioritized in data collection. That's when changes start happening. And gender data scarcity and gaps exist and will persist to exist is something that needs to be there in the mind of the policymaker. So we need to understand that there needs to be, so a platform like Shenzhen or a platform like Niti Aayog. I have done various presentations with Niti Aayog. We've been talking, we're trying to build systems around this. But the fact is, we need to start talking and understanding that there needs to be an investment to create this statistical capacity, which is basically central to improving the coverage and quality of the data that we have. Now let's understand what India did and how India did it. And why do you think JAM, the JAM Trinity, was such a success, such a huge success, especially for elections? And let me talk about Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Bhai Modi. The pretext of women being very sticky voters basically counted. So he understood that the marginalized need to be talked to, need to be met. Their demands need to be taken care of. Now, do you realize that in India, most of the digital access that women have is basically shared with her better half? And especially if you go to the rural areas, there is one mobile in the house which is used by the children and the women, and maybe another mobile in the house which is used by the man. And sometimes this becomes just one mobile which is used by the entire family, but primarily belongs to the male. Now, considering this, if I need to have an account for me and my husband both, because both of us need to be Jan Dhan holders, there needs to be access to digital account, there needs to be access to VMAP. And this is where we needed to understand where lies the data. And that is the reason why one of the first things that was rolled out was in the JAM was that J. And that J stands for Jan Dhan account. So first and foremost, for getting a mobile phone, for getting digital connection and access, you need to have a mobile phone. Second is Aadhaar. So when you, so first is Jan Dhan account. So you have an account, you have an access, you have a address, and hence you can get access to a lot of other things. So it all started with the Jan Dhan account, and 36 crore Jan Dhan accounts were made. 90% of the Jan Dhan accounts were targeted for marginalized women. And this is what has made the difference. Aadhaar was made mandatory, especially because DBT, which is direct benefit transfer, needed to be done to the marginalized. And hence, the second and the most critical thing of statistics is to basically capture right data and map the right data to the right people was done through Aadhaar. And because we became a country of 100 crore Jan Dhan account, 100 crore Aadhaar cards, and 100 crore mobile connections, it created something called as the JAM Trinity. And this is something that we say today, that India is going to be the next digital superpower. India is going to be the world's superpower. So yes, coming back to the fact how we can bridge this gender gap. Now we understand that yes, what is the gender gap? We also understand that there is a gender data gap. Now is the time to say that I am going to use technology like we've done earlier to ensure that this gap is filled. Let's take the example of normal corporates and corporate HRs. Have we ever, because a lot of these Shenzhen guys and people joining us today, I'm sure, are from the HR background. I want to understand how many people have done surveys in their offices of why women leave, why women do not come back after they have childbirth, why women of a certain age group leave their jobs, why don't women want to enter politics, why is there only 11% representation in the parliament? And once you try and figure this out, you will realize that women will also statistically be able to tell you that they have disadvantages at various fronts, which includes not being called for board meetings, not having a women toilet, not being promoted, not being given the right pay. So yes, gender pay gaps exist, and promotion gaps exist. But you'll be surprised that a few corporates that actually did surveys around promotion gaps and gender pay gaps realized that sometimes men get paid and promotion earlier because the number of times that they ask their boss to increase their pay and to give them the next promotion is just larger than how many times a woman asks. You'll be surprised that when this survey was done, it also came out that women do not feel that they have done enough to get more pay, or they have not done enough to get the next promotion. So if that is the case, then confidence building or skill training to give them internal confidence of what is expected out of you and what is it that you are delivering and in what time and what is your efficiency is something that HR needs to give. But the fact is, we do not do the statistical analysis, and hence there is a complete blind data based on which we are making policies. Now, this is back home with one corporate. Think of when you are making policies for the entire nation. And this is where SDG goals come by. Now, United Nations have identified various sustainable development goals. Now, the first goal is alienating poverty. Do you think women, even if they are migrant laborers and laborers which work on daily wages, do you think, or these women who are registered in Manrega, do you know and do you think that these women have individual names in BPL? They don't. There are many states which do not consider BPL is usually done with family household earnings. And this is where women individually do not come and get referred in these cards. And hence, Ujjwala gas was very important because it said that if you have a gas cylinder, you will be given a gas cylinder only in the women's name. And if you have a gas cylinder which has been given, then we will ensure and ask the woman of the house if she has a toilet. So Swachh Nidhi will be given to you. And this could be bridged only when the first study of are women captured in our census and in the BPL record was done. In a very similar manner, if you look at women, if you look at the United Nations are looking at, in fact, it was 19 years ago that United Nations Security Council passed a resolution by the number of 1325, which said that women need to be included at all levels of leadership and decision making. Now, this was 19 years ago, but the Sustainable Development Goals talking about each to equal and equality for all and gender biases in socio-cultural political world still exists. And hence, it is important for you to understand that somewhere down the line, it is important to create an understanding in our minds that this gender data gap or gender gap needs to be addressed and created. A bridge needs to be created on top of this data through tech to bridge the gap. Now, let's talk of these uncertain, unprecedented times called COVID. Now, one thing that we've realized is women tend to suffer less from COVID than men. So they are less affected, and everyone has their own data around it. but none of the data have been captured. Now today, doctors say that immunity building in women is a lot more than men, and hence perhaps women get affected less. But the problem is, you also need to understand. I was talking to a list of a lot of women, and in a platform like this, where some of the women turned around and said, you know what, a data shows that in a day there are 180 times that you basically touch your face through your hands. But because women have makeup on, they don't tend to touch their face quite often, and hence women are not affected as much. Now we need to understand, to even address mental, physical needs of men and women, which are absolutely not like, to understand before we get anything further, to understand whether this gap exists even in this segment. Have we thought of, during the lockdown, what happened to pregnant women? Where did they get their tests from? Did we think about the fact that any young girl which is primarily looking at not having a full tummy, not getting anything to eat, or is heavily, whether it's a SAM or a MAM model, where severely acute malnutrition case or a moderately acute malnutrition case, have we looked at data which can understand if these girls and children can be affected more by COVID? And if at all we could have found this out, we could have probably supplemented the daily meal plan, that the midday meal plan that the government has, with say millets or anything else, or high protein diet, so that at least for a little while the children's immunity is up. Even if that includes giving one vitamin C to almost everybody, that would have made all the difference. Now this is where data comes in extremely handy. Let me go towards the end of my talk and talk about what exactly is happening in the world today. Yes, a lot of AI, a lot of machine learning, and a lot of policy making is happening around by bridging this gap and this data gap. Which means what? One of the things that we need to do is to comprehend this problem in the right manner. Yes, there are a lot of people who are putting this on the table, that women aren't invisible, and it is important. Women aren't visible right now, and they are considered invisible. And that is the reason why most of the drug tests, most of the tests on technology are today happening with women in mind as well. But if you look closer to home, and this is because this is also a startup platform, I can tell you that many startups, and especially female startups, do not get funded. The VCs do not support them, because it is primarily related to a niche, they say, and that niche is women. But what they forget is most advertising and most important product marketing strategies are targeted towards women, because they are the basic decision makers. But please Google this company called Shearo. Shearo was a femtech company, feministic tech company, and you will realize that the same stories go with Zivame. The same stories go with all the female specific brands, and Shearo today is valued at $100 million, but investors decided not to pour money into Shearo because it was too niche a business. And this is precisely what happens. What do you do around this? I think it's very simple. I call it the sisterhood shout out. It is important that we give platforms to other sisters so that they can come on these platforms and talk about these things. It is important that we are aware, we understand. Third, and the most important thing, is we all need to collaborate. It is important that women come together. I have said this, and I want to say this again, that it's a men's world because there just aren't enough women in the world. That's about it. And that too in powerful positions, in positions where policy is being driven, in positions where decision taking happens. And that's the reason why most decisions, most policy do not revolve around women. Next, and the most important, it is not and can never be men versus women, because we can't turn this into a men versus women world. In fact, you'll be surprised that most often than not, it is in our minds a women versus women world. Why? Because invariably, from the very beginning, we have been taught that we need to compete on almost everything. For that attention of that one man, that one boy, we need to be fairer, we need to be thinner, we need to be talking much better, and so on and so forth. So somehow this competitive spirit that women develop versus other women, we need to stop. We need to talk. We need to tell our children, we need to tell our daughters, our sisters, our friends that we are there with you. And until women collaborate, this is not going to happen. And because this is not going to be a men versus women world, men have to step up, stand up for women. And I'm very, very happy that Shenzhen has a lot of women. I met Murli ji the other day. Samir has been following up. They're extremely passionate about the cause of women. But the fact is, they understand that 50% of the world is are women, and you can't progress if you're not taking this 50% along. And hence, it is extremely critical for us to understand that we cannot succeed if half of us are held down. We need to understand that India tomorrow is going to be a superpower on the shoulders of these women, you, me, and all of us together. And hence, the basic 3 tips that I always tell women. 1, stick to your core competency. It is very critical that you understand what is your core competency and you stick to it. Ensure that you work extremely hard to work on your core competency, and you bring a unique USP on the table with the competency that you have. Second, and the most important thing, PMS has to stand for plan, model, and scale. And that is very critical for all women to understand. I am responsible for myself, and it is very important that I keep telling myself, it's not about who is going to let me deliver. It is about who's going to stop me. And hence, for myself, I need to stand up and say that I will plan, I will model something, and then I'm going to scale it. So be on your own, stand up on your own self, collaborate, and understand that the world tomorrow is yours and ours. And last but not the least, please educate your daughters and your sons alike to ensure that they do not become the gap that we've been talking about. They stand up as the bridge that builds, that bridges this gap that we have created for years, hundreds of years together. But the next generation is on us, the women. And if we can teach them that there is gap in everything, and if we can inherently do away with these human biases, perhaps we will understand that this world can become gender agnostic, gender neutral, and so will the policies and the future. Thank you so much. I was given 40 minutes. It's 39 minutes altogether. I'm open for any questions. I'm going to go on mute. I can see a few chat boxes here, but I will let someone take the lead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shweta, for such a power-packed presentation. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read out a few questions that you can answer. Just give me a second. So one question has come is, how is the industry looking to change this gender gap? Are there any metrics getting observed at national level? Oh, are you on mute, One second. Yeah, one second. One second. Murli, can you just unmute her?
Yes, if the host can give me I can mute and unmute myself, please. Thank you, host. So Ankita, thank you for your question. So yes, I have already spoken about what the Indian government is doing, and I firmly believe that it's not enough. But I know a lot of these corporates who are working big time on gender diversity. Now, let's understand that gender diversity not only means having more women in the organization, but it also means breaking the glass ceiling, covering up the pay, getting the promotion gap right, getting the right kind of structures right, and the needs of women to be taken care of in totality. So it's a wholesome process, and this entire wholesome process is not happening in any of the sectors and segments. And hence, what I've been trying to advocate and what I advocated in this 40 minutes is we need to start with the data. This is where the basically buck stops, or I should say the buck starts, because we do not have right data. Somewhere we are not able to bring in the right kind of policies. So yes, there are policies being worked at. Now, if you look at maternity leave, India is the country which has really worked on maternity leave. 6 months maternity leave is being given to women. But then the fact is, and also childcare has become mandatory if there are more women in a certain number of women in the organization. But if you actually look at it, do we know how many people are availing of the childcare facilities within the professional premises? We don't know. Yes, how many people are availing maternity leave? Yes, a lot of people are, but a lot of people are also extending the maternity leave, which means that they need about a year of maternity leave, and hence they do not care whether they go on a maternity leave or they go on a sabbatical. In a very similar manner, it is mandatory to have a Vishaka committee. But then the fact is, which kind of people, which age group of girls actually go to the Vishaka committee is something that we statistically don't know. So to actually work on bettering the policy of Vishaka committee is becoming a problem because we are blind on data there. So my advocacy is that it is important that we ensure it's a world of social media. I don't understand why we can't have tech which can be used to solve problems like harassment, because if you can write anonymous emails, you can actually do anonymous complaints as well. Now, the drop box or the comment box that you used to have in traditional setups is something that you need to do as far as big, larger corporations or professionals are concerned. Now, this is something that people are thinking of, but we need to mandatorily put it as a law and as a practice in our daily lives is something that I'm talking about.
Thank you so much for that, Cheta. There's another question which is talking about what are the policies government has come up with, especially for women entrepreneurs, and could you help us understand how to avail them?
Yes, good question. See, it has been statistically again proven that 98% of the loans that have been taken by women entrepreneurs, whether they are single sole entrepreneurs, or in paid partnerships, private limited companies, or in SHGs, which are self-help groups, 98% of the credit is returned back, especially if it's a woman. So one, if you look at CIBIL data, you will also realize the CIBIL data supports women as well. Now, this only helps in getting more liquidity to women. But the fact remains that we still have VCs which are not funding women, and so on and so forth. So that is one data. As far as policy is concerned, we need to understand that yes, interest-free loans are available to women entrepreneurs. We are also, as women entrepreneurs, you can get yourself in various segments, be it the real estate segment or in SMEs. You get a benefit of PF, PPF, and also credit limits as far as being a woman is concerned. In Startup India, Stand Up India, if you're a women entrepreneur, you get a tax holiday for about 5 years. So there are loads of ways in which women are being encouraged to be entrepreneurs. To answer your question of how you can avail it, today it's very simple and easy to avail, because most of the women policies or schemes are floated through Ministry of Women and Child Affairs in the state and in the center. All the schemes are uploaded on the website. If you go through the website, you will find various schemes. You can shortlist the scheme which is best applicable to you, and most often than not, it is linked to a local bank, which could be a nationalized bank. You could go to that SBI account closest to you and avail of that scheme. And if at all there is a need which you think exists, you can contact various people who are available as consultants and advisors, who specifically help women entrepreneurs to gain not only liquidity but connect the right dots so that you can avail of these schemes.
Thank you, Shweta. Guys, in case you have any more questions, you can put it in the chat box and we can take them.
Shweta, hi, Sonam here.
Yes, hi Sonam.
Shweta, first of all, I want to thank you and congratulate you for such a wonderful power packed session. It was extremely insightful, very glad to know so much, learn so much. And I'm sure that, what kind of investment would have gone from your side to really go around and gather such important data about each and everything. So thank you very much for educating us.
Thank you,
first of all. And I just want to add one thing. I think the cultural bias is so high that sometimes it's also very difficult to come out of it. Being women, it's just extremely high. I just want to quote one incident here. So when the equal right movement was happening in USA, and their parliament, they passed this law that X number of states should be ready to go for it, and then it will be implemented in USA. They were shot by 3 states, right? And one of the deterrent which happened that time was some of the women got worried that if equal right movement happens and if women start getting jobs, then their husbands might lose their jobs. I mean, it's a very sad thing, but guess what? That was the day, and today is the day. It has still not happened. So sometimes we just get worried about so many things and may not really know the fact. And as you rightly said, right, we need to come together as a community for all the right reasons, right? We are not here to fight with anyone else, but I think we need to just celebrate our success a little more. It doesn't happen. And the promotion story is like so true. Everyone knows about it, but still, I mean, how do we really imbibe it in our DNA? I don't know, how much do you tell people, but yeah.
Okay, turn around, Sonam, and first and foremost, thank you so much. I think most of the data that I spoke about and most of the things that I spoke about has been gathered through experience and through deep study, because, I've been working with women at grassroots level, and I'm very strongly focused on ensuring the right kind of policies come with the right kind of tech backgrounds. Now, please understand a couple of things here. Cultural mind blocks are so strong that for you to actually do away with this block, you will take as many years as it was taken to actually build it. Now, you look at the stories. Tulsidas ji wrote about Ramayana some 4,000 years ago, right? You look at Germany, where Hansel and Gretel was written 2,000 years ago. Now, in 2,000 years ago, look at most of the folk tales, Aesop's fables. Most of them were written here 600 years ago. Now, these many years, people have always talked about the witch, the stepmom, the fairy who was very beautiful, the woman who was waiting for the Prince Charming, that he would come in this thing, and she had the apple, and so on and so forth. right? It was long ago that Cinderella was made to do all the household work. Now it took years together to build this mindset. Feminism is the concept which is just about 200 years old. So let's understand that women again rose up. Women empowerment is just about 200 years old. It's a very new modern concept. So of course, one, it's going to take as much time. Now, your question was very apt. How do I contribute? Now, the way I always tell this, that the best thing about change, the best thing about change is we always feel that someone else is going to change, and someone else is going to bring the change for us as well. So look at all the times I'm in politics, and there are umpteen number of times that men come over and talk to me about other women, and I turn around and tell them, whether right or wrong, but I don't hear shit about another woman, right? Sometimes we need to just shut everyone up and stand up for women. So there are certain basic things that we can follow ourselves. I think the change starts with us. So we need to think within us as to how many times have we turned around and spoken about another woman who slept with her boss to gain that one promotion, right? Or we believed that she is not competent, or she's not suitable to be there, but she's yet there because she is good looking, right? So somewhere I think it is extremely important that we do away with these biases, at least starting with us. Second, as you rightly said, and I firmly believe this, we need to understand that women are not competing with other women. I have to always tell and remind women that we are also competing with the men. In fact, we are taking their jobs. Then there is no point in fighting with that one woman who has a chair. Why are you not targeting the other woman? Because we've never been taught to. Because we never thought that we could take that chair that belongs to a man. And last but not the least, I think it is about idols also. See, sometimes we don't have idols. We look up to our idols who are men. So when you make gender idols, which are from other gender, most of these women, I interact a lot with the police women. So mostly, if you look at women who go up and rise high in their ranks, you will see them turning into men. I always say this in politics. I've been in politics, and most women turn into men. What does that mean? Yes, they can guard abuses at you exactly like a man does. Women will smoke because they feel that they are empowered to do that, and so on and so forth. I think it is important to understand that femininity gives you the power, it gives you the willpower, it gives you the multitasking power, it gives you a different thought process, and we need to be powered by the fact that we are women, we are made different, we think different, and it is this difference that is going to make the difference in this world. And hence I deserve, according to my own talent, and talent is the only thing which is gender neutral. It doesn't have a gender. So please believe in your own talent. It starts with you. I think let's just start with ourselves and change will happen.
Thank you so much, Shweta. Let's move on to the next question. The Another question is, you spoke in the beginning about a lot of data points which were talking about the gender gap. So is there any way that we can know where all these data points, like where can we find them? Because we would like to highlight them in our communication, in our, the kind of communication that we are doing.
I quite remember a book which has been written, which I referred to a long time ago. It was a book which is called "Women Are Invisible" or something of that sort, in this man's world. So it's a very good book. It is actually quotes most of these things. And of course, new data points keep arising, but you need to be working on it. And I think we can present, in case I can write a paper out for you. I will definitely write in a paper out for you, because now it has come to my, it is in my DNA now. I keep noticing. For example, I did not talk about this, but I know for sure that voice recognition software. I keep saying that I work in tech. So my personal thesis is that the future lies with voice and vernacular. I always tell this to startups. But the fact is, voice recognition tech Do you know that 70% less accurately they can recognize women's voices? It's exactly that, because they don't have enough women to test their voices on those voice tests. So these and nobody intends to do this. This is general human bias, because just think of it, 9 out of 10 times when we talk about humans, we are always talking about men. So, and that is where the problem starts, because in our mind we have this inherent bias, and when we intend to take out this bias, we intend to take this out at the easier of the lot, which is definitely not the fundamental. The fundamental lies in data. The fundamental lies in statistics, which is where most of the work does not happen.
Thank you, Shweta. There's one more question, which is about how can industry and tech community be productively engaged in bridging gap, gender digital divide, and improving the experience of women or girls online?
Okay, great. Good question. I don't know who asked this question, but again, let me start with where the gap lies. Do you know that today in COVID times, everyone is trying to go the online way? So we are now interacting in a digital manner, and most of the schools are going online. But there is a data point which is being talked about in government circles, that broadband has not reached rural. And hence a lot of these households which are poor do not have access to online infrastructure, and hence online infrastructure is not going to serve the purpose of online schooling or online education. But please understand that there are places where there is access to digital, but there is limited access to digital. So if I have 2 boys and 1 girl in a household, or even if I have 1 boy and a girl to a household, and there is only one smartphone device, then the boy gets a preference in doing the homeschooling and online schooling. The girl definitely does not get that phone. So while the class is going on, it's the boy that is using the phone, because girls' schooling is not important. Now this data is something that we are not trying to figure out. This context and pretext is not something that anybody is trying to talk about, but this exists. This is a reality in today's world. Now somebody will have to I don't know if you've been following, but the High Court in Delhi actually had to come out and give a ruling that because there is hardly any digital access to women around the lockdown, it is important that women, especially if they want to register FIR against harassment and abuse, they can break the lockdown and move out and go to the police station. And this was a judgment which was given against a woman's complaint. So I personally feel that one, as government, as platforms, as organizations, we need to talk about this data gap a lot. But more importantly, we also need, so we need to write about it, we need to talk about it, we need to write papers around it. But as women, as parents, as girls, we also need to, on the hindsight, talk about these realities and work around products for this. So just answering and closing the question that you had, yes, a lot of these education companies today are looking at non-internet based learning. And this is primarily aimed at places where there are no broadbands available, but they should also be aimed at places where there is only one digital access available. So when you say non-broadband availability is passing on pen drives or education through packages, LCDs, memory cards, and so on and so forth. Now, as tech companies, as organizations, we need to consider this gap, and we need to fill the gap is the point I'm making, which is when I think this gap is very.
Thank you, Shweta. I think we have reached towards the end of the session. Any closing words from you, Shweta, before we log off?
So I have said it, and I want to say it once again. The future belongs to us. But the fact is that it is important for us to come together, collaborate, and converge. The only difference between collaboration and convergence is when we both come together for a singular goal, we can collaborate and say that, okay, both our skill sets become one. So 2 plus 2 becomes 22. But when we converge, I say that I'm working towards my goal. I may not collaborate with you, but I will ensure that I will reach to the goal. You come with me because you have the same goal. And it is collaboration and convergence both which can ensure that total transformation can happen. Total gaps can be filled. And hence, all stakeholders which are important for bridging this gender gap need to come together, converge their efforts, be extremely clear that this is where the gap lies, and bridge it together. And that's when you will see a new world.
Excellent, Shweta. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining in today's session. And thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Ankita ji.
Shweta, for
Thank you.
taking out time and giving this session to us. See you guys in a couple of other webinars also are on, so you can register yourself and join them as well. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you very
God
much.
bless.
Appreciate that.